Hello, Fantasy League enjoyers. How are you doing? A new season, and we're going to be jumping in the deep end. I am Cologne. An explosive start to the new season here in the Fantasy League, and I'm going to be guiding you through all of the games, or as many as I possibly can. We're also going to have a bit of an extended video here, so strap in for a long one, as I'm going to be talking over some of the roster changes as well. I wanted to wait until the Fantasy League to kind of intertwine the two together. Now, the first stage doesn't have the very top flight teams. That's going to be in stage 2, so I'll discuss their roster changes in that next video that will be coming up after this one. For this, we're going to be talking about the roster changes of these teams. It's kind of like the tier 1.5 to 2. There are still some very solid teams here, don't get me wrong. So I'm going to be discussing that in this video. And of course, if you do have any of your own say, your own opinions in terms of the roster changes, which ones you think were good, which ones you think were bad, I'll be doing a summary of that in the next video once I've done all of them, by the way, as a heads up. And you want to have your say on who you're picking for the Fantasy League, do by all means comment below and let me know. And please, to help the algorithm, if you could, to get this spread to more people, feel free to drop a like and also subscribe if you are enjoying this content, and that would be awesome. That being said, though, all of those caveats put into place, this is hot off the back of the roster changes, and so it always feels like a little bit of a stab in the dark. Normally it takes probably like 3 or 4 events before things start to stabilize a little bit in terms of which teams are going to perform well, which teams are going to perform not as well. Additionally, we've also had some big changes to the gameplay mechanics of how the game is right now. It feels like Valve want to take this more to being CT-sided. They've removed Anubis, they've brought back Overpass, they've also changed the CT economy, and they've also changed the incendiary grenade so it extends further quicker, which is kind of reverting some of the changes they've made in the past and is going to make the incendiaries quite a lot stronger. But they have nerfed the MP9. Now, I have to say, some people have been asking what my opinion on this is, because I'm a big MP9 enjoyer myself when I do play the game. You do notice a bit of the differences, especially with the jumping accuracy. It's still a strong weapon. It's not like it's been nerfed into the ground. I still think you're going to see a lot of pros going for the MP9. It's not like it's been completely stripped bare. There are the options, though. You've obviously got the FAMAS that was buffed a while back. You got the 5.7, which is crazy strong still. I'm surprised so many people sleep on that pistol, and it is a fraction of the price at $500. So I'm not sure if you'll see players go for extra utility now that the incendiary is better than it was before, and also the MP9 is not as good. That could be like a double whammy, a kind of an indirect nerf to the MP9 if you follow my logic on that one. But we'll see. We'll have to wait and see. What we do know, though, are the opening fixtures. And that is Phase Big, Liquid Pain, 3D Max MIBR, NIP Heroic, Gamer Legion Complexity, Tyloo VP, Astralis Bait, and FlyQuest Inferior. There is a lower bracket as well, and this is best of 3s. So do keep in mind the extra randomness of the best of 1s not present in this event in any place at all, which is great to see. So FaZe and Big. Big haven't made any roster changes, to be clear on this. They are still the same 5. They are still a team that it doesn't feel like they're ever going to be a legit contender, maybe even for playoffs. They're an also-ran type of team right now, and I hate to say that, because if you've been a regular viewer of mine for a while, you'll know how much I love Tabson as a player. As a human being, he's really cool, and I'm always wanting Big to do well. But when you stick with being, a German team, your options are just so much more limited. And I think you're seeing that with Big. Like, I respect it. I admire that they want to stay true to the core of what they're looking at as the company, as the entire team itself. They want to stay true to that theme, and I get that. But the problem is that JDC is the best player on this team by quite a while, and he's not necessarily performing at a super high level. And I don't see what Big have to offer at these tournaments. It sucks to say, but it is just the truth, is how I see it. If any of you disagree with me, please do let me know, because I'll be very curious, especially any German fans out there, what you guys think about this Big team. Do you have hopes? Do you have a feeling that maybe this season is going to be different for them? But I just feel like it's going to be more of the same. That's just how I feel. Now, FaZe. It's a weird one, man. It's underwhelming, isn't it? Like, Brokey's back into starting in the main roster. Obviously, they were with Simple for the major. A lot of people expected them to pick up Simple full-time, permanently. Now, my understanding, and do take this with a pinch of salt, But my understanding is that his contract is ending around October, November time later this year. And so I wouldn't be surprised if that is true, if FaZe just don't want to pay the massive buyout clause that would be on Simple's contract, and maybe they go back in for him later on if someone else hasn't already picked him up. Maybe that's the plan for FaZe, to save some money. And if that's the case, fair enough. I'm sure Simple has a very, very pricey tag on his name. But back to Brokey just feels very uninspired. It didn't work before. It hadn't been working for quite some time. And to go back to Brokey again, it just doesn't really fill me with confidence about this FaZe team. Now, I'm going to look at it from both sides, right? So my feeling on this roster change is very underwhelming. But I'm going to try and look at this in a positive way. Brokey was this close to his career going in massive reverse, to being put down into potentially like a tier 2 team, tier 2.5. I don't know who's going to be breaking the bank for Brokey. I don't know who's going to be coming in and being like, yes, we really want Brokey on a top flight team. He definitely wouldn't get a team at FaZe's caliber, in my opinion. I just can't see that happening. The teams around FaZe right now, where FaZe want to be, have far superior, more consistent AWPers than Brokey. So I don't know if he would have been given that luxury, and he must know that. I know he's super laid back. I know he's like kind of emotionless, or at least that's the way that his character is portrayed. But you'd have to be a robot not to have some kind of emotional reaction or feeling towards being benched, potentially being completely removed from FaZe, having to sit and watch on as somebody else plays in your position at a major. That's got to sting. I don't care who you are. That's got to have some kind of impact on you as a person. And then being given the opportunity to basically have a second trial run. This is Brokey now having the opportunity to come into this team. And if he starts strong, if we see Brokey at his peak levels, by the way, I don't think even the biggest Brokey critic would say the guy has no talent. He definitely does. The problem with Brokey is he is super streaky. You'll get games where he will take over the server against anybody and he will just straight up destroy the other team. But he'll have multiple games, more games in reverse, where he's a ghost. And that was the problem. It was the consistency. It was the fact that he'd go missing in big games. He's a very aggressive AWPer. He can have some amazing moments and he can really be that X factor at times, but it wasn't consistently seen. And that's what FaZe needed to get to that next level. If this has been a kick up the ass for him, if this has been a motivating situation to go through, which I would have to think it has to be at some level, to prove the world wrong, to prove anybody that doubted you within the team wrong. If you can't take this opportunity, then I don't know what to say. So I'm going to look at it in a positive way. I'm going to say Brokey comes back here, destroys big, and goes on a massive tear in this event. Whether that'll consistently remain is yet to be seen, but Brokey has an amazing opportunity here, an incredible opportunity to cement himself in this FaZe team, because if he comes back and he plays at that peak level consistently now for a couple of months, he probably works his way back into this team full time, in my opinion at least. So let's see what he's got up his sleeve. It is underwhelming though, I can't deny that at all. So Liquid also went through no roster changes, but they did change their coach, which I think is pretty big for this Liquid team. And it does give me a bit of a heartwarming feel to see Naf backed by the org, backed by the head guys, backed by his team to keep him in this roster, because he is NA royalty. He is Liquid royalty. He's been with his team for the longest time. I remember casting him back at Katowice when he was playing at Liquid, and that's now 6+ years ago, 6.5 years ago. He's had an amazing career. At his peak, he was an immense rifler, up there with some of the best. I don't know if he can get back to that level again. He probably can't, but he doesn't need to. He just needs to level up. He just needs to get to a point where he's not one of the star players, but he's just a rock-solid role player, because you have Nerds and you have Twists, and those two guys combined have more rifle prowess than a lot of teams do out there at the top level. Like, that's an incredible core of talent already. Ultimate, also streaky, reminds me a bit of Brokey in some ways, but Ultimate can pick up the rifle and do work as well if he needs to on T sides of maps like Inferno. So Liquid, for me, with this coach change, have the ability with their roster to make this really interesting. They should be a team that is challenging for top 10, but let's be completely honest about this, right? I talked about remembering casting Naf back in his Katowice days with Liquid, that's probably the last time that they were relevant as a top flight team. 2019, maybe 2020, but not much past that point. And for a team of Liquid's just caliber, that is not good enough. That is depressing. You need to see Liquid have more impact at events than that. And I think this roster has the capabilities, but we'll have to see if the confidence, if the love shown in NAF repays in kind for them, if it pays off, if they get anything out of that. Because NAF, again, similar to like Brokey's situation, must realize that he is very close to being demoted in his stage in this career. And at his point, the way it's gone as well in Liquid, I don't think he ever finds a team of this caliber again. I think he probably goes down to like tier 2, tier 2.5 in NACS. And that would be a crying shame for a player. Not only is he a great individual, like a great person, but he was a great player. And I hope he does bounce back. I really do. Pain. Semi-finalists at the major. Incredible achievement. I'm not taking anything away from them. I had faith in them from the beginning. I didn't think they'd make it to the semi-final of the major, to be very clear. They went through roster changes before the major that a lot of people didn't take into context, and I think that's why a lot of people underestimated them. They've done it now, but we have just seen them play at Fissure, and it looked pretty terrible. They beat Rare Atom, they lost to Linvision, they lost to 3D Max. Now, Linvision and 3D Max, Linvision in particular, very surprising at the major in a positive way. 3D Max surprising at the major in a negative way, for me at least. I expected more from those guys. Body's been a really good change, I think, for these guys, and I do expect them to take down MIBR. Who, I mean, they've got Insani, but other than Insani, like, who are you realistically looking at on that roster to deliver? I think 3D Max are just going to smother them and just choke them out. And then we hit one of the games I'm most excited by, because both of these teams have gone through roster changes. Both of these teams are on an upward trajectory, and I'm really excited to see this game between NIP and Heroic. If you've been watching my videos since last season, you'll remember at the end of last season, I was really hype about this NIP squad. That was with Arazdose, of course, instead of Kaspersky. If you don't know, Kaspersky's been playing at Ents, was by far and away their shining light on that team. Really solid rifle, can play entry frag, has had games where he basically carried Ents single-handedly. This is a really good pickup, in my opinion. But the reason why I was really excited about this team is because you had Wrinkle and Shush on this roster together. And Shush, terminally underrated in his previous teams, like Heroic, obviously. And really solid player. And Wrinkle has been like one of those AWPers that's just been so promising, but has never really had the team to back him up and allow him to fully shine. It was like Wrinkle would pop off, the rest of the team would go a bit quiet, or Wrinkle wouldn't pop off. And one of the elements that people often don't really consider when it comes to AWPers is if you have a team around you that is unable to support you through firepower, unable to support you through teamwork, you as an AWPer are often going to get really badly punished for that, because it's easy to single you out. It's easy to target an AWP when they have no supporting cast members, just by smokes, utility, and then just rushing it down. You know, having flanks, lurks that take shape on the T side when you're playing on that CT side, it can really affect AWPers in a profoundly negative way. It can be hard for them to really tee off. It can be hard for them to really show the levels that they have, the gears they can shift through. And finally, I feel like NIP with Wrinkle has a supporting cast that is absolutely capable of helping Wrinkle really shine bright. Snappy is their IGL. This guy, most underrated IGL out there as far as I'm concerned. At one point in his Ents, he was getting his flowers. People were starting to see, oh, Snappy, this guy's actually really good. Goes to Falcons, complete train wreck disaster. And he got scapegoated pretty hard for that. He's also an IGL that can frag. Even at 35, he is somebody that loves SMGs. So I am curious if the MP9 nerf, if that's going to affect Snappy's performances, because he does use SMGs a lot. He loves the MAC-10s, he loves the MP9s. He's a player that likes to take that more sacrificial entry frag role with the IGLing sometimes if needs be. The guy is a really, really rock-solid IGL and has tons and tons of experience. So this NIP squad for me is probably one of the most exciting teams right now in CS. When was the last time we said that about the Ninjas? Heroic are kind of like in a similar vein. They've got Grix in. They got Nilo in. Nilo, who obviously was on the periphery for a while with this team. He was their substitute. Will he, won't he join the roster? What's going on with this? I think Madden as well was involved in varying times and degrees. But Tania, insane talent. Obviously, Grix, very solid, coming in as well. Could be an exciting duo between the two of them. They have lost X-Floud, who did have layers of impact, but at times was disappointing. But I think this heroic team is very exciting as well. It's whether Grix and Nilo are going to kind of settle in quickly, I think, to see how this heroic team is going to be long-term. In terms of this game, it's incredibly close. I think NIP may just edge this match and win it, but I wouldn't be surprised if Heroic took it as well. It's probably going to be the game of the day, though. I'm really excited to see that. And, of course, which of these teams is going to adapt and maybe float overpass picks? We'll have to see. Because Train's not played that much at the pro level right now. Anubis was often like a middle-of-the-pack map for a lot of teams. So I don't know how Overpass is going to factor in here. Gamer Legion and Complexity, two teams that have also been kind of up and down, but for different reasons. Gamer Legion have consistently been pillaged with losing players left and right. Obviously, Flammus going off to VP, who's now been replaced. We'll get into that in a moment. Kersey is it. Don't know much about this guy, if I'm being completely 100% honest with you, but what I do know, what I do have faith in, is Ash and his ability to seek talent, unearth these hidden gems from the tier 2, tier 3 bracket, these young players, bring them in and have impact. So many times has he been correct. In fact, I don't think he's missed on any of them. Slend maybe to an extent, but I don't think so. I think this is just a case of trying to upgrade. But this is a very solid team that Gamer Legion have, assuming that Kersey is going to fit in and do a solid job. But they're against Complexity, who I think, because of their major performance, people are now being a little bit more doubtful on. But you've got to put a massive piece of the puzzle in context here. They didn't have Halzuk, and people were not realizing the impact that Halzuk has on this Complexity team. He is one, if not their best player. Him and Grim are typically the two you're looking at to perform. The AWP, the star AWP on the team, the guy that is the X-Factor player that can play super aggressive and get you opening picks on so many of the maps in the current pool. This is a guy they sorely missed at the major. And I think people are underrating Complexity because of that point. Now, there's no guarantee that now, having been in a player break, and before that, obviously, him not playing at the major. So it's been a while since we've seen this 5 Complexity play against any top flight opposition. But before then, they were beating like powerhouse teams. They were having impact. They were taking maps off big, colossal teams. And so can they fall back into that form again? It's difficult to say. But I have to have faith that this Complexity team has been waiting and simmering away for Halzuk to get back in. Obviously, the reason he couldn't make the major, if you were unaware of this, was visa issues. He is Norwegian, and there was just some visa problems getting him across to NA, which is weird considering he plays for an NA team in Complexity. But regardless, I think Complexity are going under the radar just a little bit in people's expectations. Tyloo and VP. So VP have made the roster change. Obviously, Flammus is out and Perfecto is in. A guy that has been languishing away on the Cloud9 bench in like jail for the last year plus. It's been a long time since we've actually seen him play at Top Flight CS. I think it is a decent change in. I do feel bad for Flammus, though. Genuinely, I do feel bad. I feel like he was never utilized in the way he should have been in VP. He's a very aggressive player. He was made to play like weird roles and weird positions that didn't allow him to shine. The few times that he was unleashed in like eco rounds on the T side where they were like, screw it, let's just rush, he had tons of impact. I just don't think he was played correctly with this VP roster, which is another reason why I don't have much faith in them. They did do better at the major than I expected. I will hold my hands up and admit to that. But I am not sold on Electronic. You've pissed away talent like Flammus. You've pissed away Flit and Fame for large parts of this team. I am not sold on this guy as an IGL. I will happily be proven wrong because they have some really good talent on this roster, but I'm just not sold at all. I had glimpses of belief at the major, but that ended pretty quickly. And then Tyloo, who have been on an upward trajectory. This is a really solid, exciting team, a solid prospect of a team. And I don't think this is going to be an easy game for VP whatsoever. I'm going to be very curious to see how Perfecto comes into this team, how he fits in. I assume he's going to be playing a lot of the sort of role positions, the difficult angles and spots where it's not going to be very flattering to his stat line. But he's going to just be there to do a job, and he very much realizes that. And I suppose he'll be grateful for the opportunity after having to watch from the sidelines for what will feel like forever for him. But not sold on this Astralis. Sorry, not this Astralis, this Virtus Pro team. I say Astralis because they are next against Bait. They also have gone through no roster changes. I mean, I think they solidified the Hooksy signing, but he was already in the team as far as I was concerned. I couldn't imagine they wouldn't pick him up. So Hooksy now fully into this Astralis roster. We've not seen them play actively in a while, whereas Bait did certainly surprise a lot of people in the major. Looked like a solid team. I thought their lack of experience would be their undoing early on. It wasn't, but it ended up being the case eventually. Astralis, though, with Hooksy, they look like reinvigorated team. You know, Stown in particular is a guy that you go back a couple of years, and he was touted to be in that sort of top 5 riflers on the planet. Some people saying he should be top 3. Some people even arguing that he could potentially become the best. And he just fizzled away. It just never really happened. It was very sort of disappointing drop-off with Astralis, but also his individual performances alongside that. But we know what he can do. The big surprise here for me is actually Yabi being down at the 1.03. Again, caveat in, Astralis haven't played that much over the last 3 months, realistically. But he did have a noticeable drop-off himself. So this Astralis team for me is pretty exciting. I think with Hooksy's leadership, it felt to me, the best way I can explain this with Astralis is it felt to me that they had 5 or 6 gears, and we never really saw them get out of second gear. That's what it seemed to me. Like they were playing at 40% capabilities or something like that. And you can make a lot of reasoning as to why that was the case and, you know, why Astralis never really popped off as much as they should. But that's how it felt to me. So maybe this is Astralis having a second wind. Hooksy in as the IGL is going to start to unlock the Stowns, the Yabbies of that team. We know what Device is capable of. He's one of the GOATs of CSGO. No one's really going to dispute that fact. And then Stay is just a really, really damn solid player right in the middle of it all. Bait, though, are going to be no scrubs. They are not going to be slouches in this. This team is proving themselves to be a legit, solid team. I do think Astralis get the W, but it could be a close one. And then finally, we have FlyQuest and we have Furia. One of these teams has had a roster change. JKS is in for FlyQuest, going back to Australia now, which I think is great for both parties. He's going to be a great addition to this team. I think it's actually a really good roster change for FlyQuest. And Regali needs some help. I think JKS can be that guy. But they do run into Furia, who have also been revitalized. Fallen making the decision. He's no longer going to AWP. His days of AWPing are behind him. Obviously can pick up the second AWP if needs be and can do a job with it. Legendary player in his own right, but he's gone back to IGLing and rifling, and this has been a great decision. Molodoy comes in, great work for him very early on, plays at Astana, pops off. Then at the major was having good performances. K Serato's playing well. But the big one for me on this team is Yakindar. This feels like his redemption arc to me. It really does. I think I'm going to stand by this, and I said this at the time, that his performances stats-wise at Liquid were horrible, but people weren't looking at the bigger picture of what he was attempting to do. Oftentimes playing under Twist's leadership, which was not good, so poor, in fact, that it pretty quickly changed back over with obviously Shui coming back in. Their T-sides were shambolic, and often it felt like Yakindar had to try and make something happen out of nothing. And at the top level of CS, it's like getting blood from a stone. You know, like you're trying to play up on Banana or on Inferno, an entry frag against a team that has coordinated utility, that has really good counter-fragging, you know, protocols. There's double wide swing with flashbangs and HEs, and you're just there by yourself like, I'm trying to do something, please help me. Your stats are going to be just going to be absolutely trash. Like, there's not much that you can do about that. And Yakindar, for me, was thrown under the bus multiple times. I'm not saying that some of it wasn't deserved, right? I'm not going to say that this is all some kind of like conspiracy or anything like that. He had some really poor rounds, but the point is, I think the role he was trying to play was incredibly tough to pull off, and I think he's being used far better in this Furia team. And I really want to see him continue to surprise and and to really like win people back over again, because I think although the criticism was fair, it went way too far. It was unreasonably harsh for Yakinda at times. And it's really cool to see him in this Fury team and then performing well. Did really well at the major, and I think they're going to continue that streak here. And Fury is an interesting team as well, by the way, and I'll get more into this on the stage 2 of Cologne when we're talking about the very top teams, the elite teams. You're in the top 10 now. You're in 9th position. It's going to be hard for Fury to keep that, because a lot of teams above them have really strengthened up, in my opinion, which I will discuss. I'll be curious to see if Fury can keep hanging with the big boys come the end of this season. I think they can. We'll see where they stand at that point. So, with all of those things being explained, described, broken apart, what have you, this is the team I'm going for. I did want to go for some Furia players, but the price didn't quite work out. They're actually quite expensive. I'll show you what I'm talking about here. Even for like the lower stat players, I mean, Molodoi 222, K-Serato 216, Yakindar 213, Yuri 213. These are expensive players. Like, you can maybe go in for Fallen, but I don't know if that would necessarily be worth it, so I decided to skip them. That could be a mistake. I've tried to sprinkle the budget as much as possible on having multiple players that I think could potentially pop off. But again, as I mentioned at the start of this video, it does feel like a stab in the dark. I'm going to believe in NIP though. Shush, I think, is good value for money. And Snappy, by the way, 176k for a player that can frag as an IGL on a team that is against a roster with 2 roster changes in Heroic and a solid team with Kaspersky coming in. I think that's a steal for 176. It could come back to bite me, don't get me wrong. And then the other player that I thought was amazing value for money is Halzuk at 196. I think some of this is off the basis of Complexity's very poor major performance, but again, he wasn't there. And that is significant. 196k for Halzuk is crazy value for money. Even if Complexity do get banged out and don't play particularly well, I've not spent that much money on him anyway. And then the one that maybe turns a few eyes, maybe raises a few eyebrows, it's going to be Brokey. But again, I'm trying to look at the positives of this situation. I'm trying to look at the fact that in stage 1, there's none of the top flight teams, which is where FaZe typically struggle. You don't have the Vitalities, you don't have the Falcons, you don't have the Spirits of this world. And so I think FaZe should, against Big, be starting off with a W. And Brokey should, hopefully, fingers crossed, take this as an amazing opportunity to secure his spot once more at FaZe and really pop off and capture the hearts and minds of FaZe fans and the FaZe team themselves. So, lengthier video here. Part 2 will also be quite a long video as we discuss the roster changes. Please do comment below and let me know what you think about the roster changes here and what you think about the Fantasy League team that I've gone for and which one you've gone for. And hopefully you're looking forward to plenty more CS content, because that's what we're going to have here on the channel. But until stage 2 of Cologne, I'll catch you guys later. Take care of yourselves. Peace.